Hello and welcome to another inspiring conversation with me, Claire Westwood, the Chief Creative Maverick. And I'm here to ignite the hearts of luminary leaders, change makers, coaches and healers so they can be the leader and the light that they always wanted to be in this crazy world of 2026. And today I've got the beautiful Lizzie with me today, and she's got an amazing story and does this wonderful one-woman show at the moment, which we will be talking about during the show. And I always start by talking about how I know the person. And Lizzie and I met. We have the same improv teacher, but we learn from her in different towns. So Lizzie learns in Stroud and I learn in Bristol. And we met when we auditioned for a musical improvised pantomime last year, and we hit it off straight away. And it's a great joy that I get to talk to her and share her wisdom and energy with everybody watching. So thanks for joining me, Lizzie. It's lovely to see your colourful aura here today.
Oh no, so really just so nice to be invited to play, always.
Exactly. So the theme of these kind of conversations is really, the evolution of life, and we're talking about kind of self-awareness, consciousness, spiritual awareness, if that's something that's been important to your kind of journey, and also obviously creativity, which is something we met around. So how were you, like, as a child? Would you say you were creative? Were you spiritual? Were you like, how do you remember your childhood and
Little
yourself as
Lizzie
a
Bean.
child?
I do believe that I was a dreamer and a bit of a loner, which
Okay.
is always a fascinating thing for people to know.
Mm.
I was um, quite quiet in some spaces and others. I was a nightmare at school, and I spent quite a lot of time in the corridor. I didn't shut up very often, and I did always used to make people laugh a lot, which was, I
Yeah.
think, perhaps where I found I do really like making people laugh, like not making them, like not forcing them.
Yeah. You will laugh.
You will not, you miserable shit. No, more like I just love being that energy that where people just feel safe enough to laugh at stuff. I think it's really,
Yeah,
really
same.
nice. So yeah, as a child, gosh, totally not creative. I always wanted to be like that. Gosh, do you remember that there was a fox that sang a song that said, "I'm a storyteller and my story must be told." No one remembers him. Anyway, he was like
No.
Robin Hood. And I was watching that TV program and thinking, I want to be a storyteller. So I remember wanting to be a storyteller from a
Yeah.
very, very early age.
Yeah.
Um, and then really, really identifying with various characters on TV who were always the ones who wore the bright clothes and the ones who were a bit gobby. But I don't mean that, but like that's what the character was like on the telly.
Yeah.
So um, there was a program called Watching, and I loved the girlfriend in Watching.
Right.
And then well, she called Lilo Lil from Bread. I don't even know if that's what she was
Oh,
called, but she was the one that
yeah.
always wore the pink stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, so so as a child, gosh, I wanted to tell a story, but I didn't have a story to tell. So I'd make stories up. I'd often tell stories to my teddy bears. And then as a teenager, I was a pain in the ass, but a lovable one that used to make people laugh.
Yeah. I think that I definitely resonate with that. I was pretty good at school, but I got bored after a while, and then I'd be chatting to my classmates and my teachers, and I was like, "It's all right for you, Claire, because you pretty much finished, but you're distracting everybody." Because I'm like, right, I've done what I need
Mm.
to do. Let's have a chit chat and have a bit of fun. And so when I was, watching different people online, and one woman said, "I've always loved to talk, so I decided I'd get paid to do it." And I was like, bingo, I need a YouTube channel. I love to talk. But
Yeah,
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 and it's interesting how we can get inspired by kind of
yeah. It's
TV programs, and things that might be kind of fictional or fantastical, but they resonate with part of something that you go, "Ooh, yeah."
Yeah, I think as well for me, like my there were people that didn't like necessarily those bright and vibrant characters, thought they were
Yeah,
too much.
yeah,
And
totally.
the rebel in me wanted to be like those characters. Like I never ever wanted to be normal. I don't mean that as in detriment to anyone at all ever, but I don't sit very comfortably colouring inside the lines. And
Mm.
yeah, so they liberated a part of me, I guess. But then that isn't always how life pans out, is it?
Mm. No, indeed. So tell me about that.
Well, so my show is hilariously is all about my life and the unraveling of it. So I've had a very ordinary life, you know, but although I would argue it's been extraordinary, but I went to university, got a job, got the suit, got the lanyard,
Yeah.
started working in PR and community liaison, recruitment, all sorts of um, very sensible, confined, rule-abiding jobs,
Mm.
where I felt fine until I didn't feel fine,
Mm.
and then I left. I
Mm.
cashed in my pension after 2 years and became self-employed,
Mm.
like very early on in my life.
Right. So there was signs fairly early that this wasn't a road that you wanted to walk very long, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's always a conflict of interest. So there's the part of you that wants to be the person that people dream you can be, and then there's the part of you that wants to be the person you believe you are. And
Yeah.
I think that it's hard, isn't it? How do I define success by stepping into shoes and making people proud, or stepping into my own shoes and making me proud?
Mm.
And I think there's definitely some conflict of interest internally, like as in,
Yeah.
am I brave enough to live my way, or
Yeah.
do I want
Yeah.
to be safe enough to live my life the way I should live my life?
Yeah. And then sometimes, we can make people proud even though we didn't think they would be by living our own path. Eventually people go, oh, okay, so you're not doing that anymore. Like I was a nurse, that was my proper career. And when I left to go, I had a year where I studied performing arts, and the following year I trained as a life coach. And my mum was like, what's
Gosh, yeah.
happened? What's happened to, we knew who Claire was, and now I've got no idea what these, like my mum knew what performing arts are because she was heavily into drama and theatre and stuff. But the coaching and all of that kind of stuff was just like, what even is this sort of thing? But I think there's also another thing, sort of internal conflict that you've mentioned, but more about our human needs for safety, security, and belonging,
Mm.
and then the need for adventure and stepping out and truly self-actualizing, if you will, as part of Maslow's thing. So we've got the bottom one is we want to feel secure and safe and like we belong, and the other one is like we want to break out and be totally different.
Yeah, totally that. Yeah. And also the safety of being a part of a bigger picture
Mm.
is, it's hard to step out of the puzzle you're in and not know where your puzzle piece fits.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, more complex than people imagine. I do find, so in my real world, I do live in the real world, but
Mm.
I work quite a lot in the mental health and wellbeing world, and
Yeah.
I find a great frustration in people saying things like, well, you've just got to let it go, you've just got to be yourself, you just got to live your life. And like, actually, it's really hard. Like,
Mm.
it's not as easy as people, well, not as easy for everyone as people seem to intimate it is. And also, like, I'm really privileged in terms of, like, I live my life in a way I choose to live it now, but I've also got a husband who, supports the family unit. So,
Mm.
there's a great privilege also that I accept too.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really important thing to recognize for me, very much so, because I recognize not everybody has that security. They don't have that ground beneath their feet.
Yeah.
And it matters. It matters. You want to fly free. You've got to be able to afford to do so. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be skeptical. I'm just trying to be realistic.
Yeah, and I think there's something else, in what you said about people going, oh, just do what lights you up, or just go off and be yourself and your whole self. But when we've been programmed to not be that, like you're saying, you
Mm.
love these characters that are bright and colourful and too much and too loud. And yeah, when we went to the panto auditions, like Lizzie, I don't know how many colours were in her outfit, but like the most vibrant person in the room. So it's obviously working. But it's we have to go back to, but who am I? In order to truly be ourselves, we have to kind of do a lot of self-examination to go, I've fitted in this box of,
Mm.
being at school, or for me it was nurse, and then it was like, but I've got all these other bits, that I want to fulfill. And if I step out of that, like, who am I? And one of my very early mentors, when I was thinking of doing coaching for nurses and healthcare workers, and I'm like, but if I let go of that, who am I? And instead of giving me an answer, like this is who you are. He was, well, I guess you step out and find out. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah. So how did you go
Yeah, there's a
about
lot to be
sort of
said for that.
kind of when you did step out, sort of what was that early journey like?
Well, weirdly, I think I think I've been stepping out for a long time, but isn't it funny how when you're in certain chapters of your life, you think you're being who you think you are, but then with hindsight, you look back and think, actually, maybe I wasn't,
Yeah.
or maybe I was then, but not now. It's complicated, and I think I've always thought that I was living true to me, but actually, I would argue that the last 2 years have been the most true to me that I've ever been.
Yeah.
So I think I've probably danced quite closely to my value set, but haven't necessarily stood into the spotlight to say there is another way until recently. And how did I go about doing that? Because that was actually the question you asked. Is I think I just took steps and did stuff. And I did definitely feel fear and did it anyway. And
Mm,
that's not to minimize anyone that's dancing with anxiety, but like I was always driven with this idea that I'm going to fuel myself with love, not fear,
mm,
and always ever hoping that the compassion would override the fear.
yeah.
And
And
it
when
did,
we
and it does mainly, yeah.
yeah, and when we're doing new things, what I've learned from being on a similar journey in different ways is firstly, like you say, our true self or our, it's an evolution. So we can get,
Mm.
as we go through life, we're like, oh, actually that wasn't really me, or that might have been me 10 years ago, but I want to let it go now. So it's constantly evolving. But also, anytime we do something new, it's going to feel uncomfortable. So it's almost like we have a fear of feeling uncomfortable, but there's no way around it. I don't know
Yes.
how, when I talk to people about doing improv, because we both do improv, people are like, oh, I'd be really nervous. And I was like, yeah, I was nervous before I knew how to do it. Like now I go to a class that's regular and I know the people there mostly, and it's quite comfortable for me. But the first time I even went to this new class, even though I wasn't new to improv, it's always kind of nerve wracking because you don't know what to expect. But that's where the growth happens as well.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I still go to improv and sometimes feel edgy. And I think,
Yeah.
well, the difference is that I have got some beautiful, like, I love Rebecca, but also I have some friends within that improv community now who I know would walk across fire for me. Like,
Yeah.
and that is, I think, for me, what has made the difference. I think that, God, a massive part of my evolution as a human being is finding people who are in the ship with me and trying to sail, not who are trying to tip me out of the boat or trying to rock waves, or an actual supportive community of folk who love what you do and say it out loud.
Yeah.
um and I think I really think that connection is medicine, and I don't know why we don't have more of it, if you like, because it gives you so much courage and so much it broadens your shoulders when you're not sure you can carry it.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes we are
Mm.
taught, especially in this, well, I think there's a swing back as well, very much the personal development world of the sort of 90s and 2000s. When I first got into it, was very sort of masculine energy. You set a goal and you go towards it and you do it, whatever, and you set these goals and there was no talk of nervous system regulation, which is talked about now.
Mm.
And it was very much, it seemed a very solitary kind of, you just stand with it and you keep going until you get there, sort of thing. And that's what burnt me out, partly, was following those guidelines.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and I think there's a realization now, I think, as things went so far in that direction, that community is how we're wired. And not just on, like, being able to talk online is amazing, but having community around you and people who you can talk to about all the aspects of your life, whether it's going brilliantly, people that celebrate your successes but also listen to you when you're having the most difficult day ever. We need all of that around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just having people in my life who do all of that and realizing it's possible for me to say everything out loud, that's been a big learning curve for me. Like,
Yeah.
not to put too fine a point on it, but I definitely really didn't like myself. I would go so far as to say that I hated who I was. And there's a story behind that we don't need to go into. But um, I think realizing that you're you are lovable and you can trust people, and there is space for you to believe it's possible when you when you put down the, you know, all the sort of things that hold you back, in terms of this idea that you create in your head based on your experiences, but also based on a narrative that somebody else has given you. So
Mm,
and having those people and actually looking at them and believing them is, you know, hearing people say, oh my God, I think you're brilliant, is lovely, like, obviously, but hearing it and believing it is are two
mm,
very different things. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, yeah. So when you stepped out of the world of employment and doing things on your own, like what did you start off doing?
Oh, so I was really fortunate, in that I was pregnant. So I had a job, a proper job with a lanyard. You're going to see this in my show, which really makes me laugh. Anyway, lanyard. And then I fell pregnant. I don't know why they say fell pregnant. I basically had relations with my husband after too much wine, and you know that's what happens.
Yeah.
And
I was a nurse for a long time, and nobody actually falls pregnant. Just
there's
to clarify the rules of
no falling
conception to
involved.
everybody. It's not a thing.
I feel like that would be quite a dangerous sport.
It would be. I fell and then
For
I was
damage.
pregnant.
Yeah, that's so awful. Yeah, so actually what happened was I stepped out of what I felt like, you know, stepped out of the work community, if you like, and became a mum. And that's what I did. And then I had another baby. And then I found a little part-time job, um, working with a really beautiful couple, actually, who were very lovely. And then I
Mm.
had another baby, and then I had another baby. So
Wow. Okay.
I had lots of babies, and they were all living and lush, and I love being a mum. But in dispersed into that, there was this idea of how am I going to make some money under my rules? Like, how can I go back to work and still be the mum I want to be? Because that was a
Yeah.
really important part of who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so the first job I did for myself was I had a music group for children and parents, basically. And it was a bit like The Simpsons, in that I would say a lot of inappropriate jokes. The parents would laugh, but the kids didn't care because they were small. So they would be playing the tambourine and I'd be making up jokes. And then from that, so I became very much community focused. So I had a singing group for families called Happy Beans, and then I created a running club that became Runner Beans, and then I had a performing club for kids and adults that was called Fest Beans. There's a
Oh
theme
my
here.
goodness, so great.
What did I do? Oh, and then I had a personal development program with a business management consultant and me, which was called Bean Thinking. So just all these like little magic beans that were sprouting out of the ground, and it was lovely, it was great, but I have to say working in community wellbeing was hard. It was hard to get people to come, the commitment was difficult. I really struggled with low numbers because I took it very personally. That was counterintuitive because it's supposed to be about, you know, gathering and connection and love.
Mm,
And you
mm.
know, people, you know, I'm a great believer in, if I help one person inadvertently, I help 10, but like it's really hard to sustain that as a business model.
Yeah.
um and then I got caught in the juxtaposition of, is this a business, or is this, you know, is this my life's purpose? I'm like, well,
Mm.
the two can coexist, but not in the format that it's in.
Yeah.
And then COVID occurred, and all of my community wellbeing disappeared
Yeah.
because I couldn't go and do any of it.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 years thinking, how can I do this? So I remodeled and now have the business that I have, which basically takes everything I've learned, trauma informed response to the human condition, and takes it to corporate spaces, schools, colleges, whoever
Mm.
wants it, basically. I can't remember what question you asked me. Oh, how did I step out of
Yeah. So you stepped
workforce? Is
out and
that it?
fell pregnant, basically. And yeah, no, that's interesting because
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
like, yeah, how do I make a difference and be true to myself and be a great mum at the same time? So those are the kind of questions that informed um
And make money.
and
Like,
make
I'm not,
money.
you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. I wish I could do. I genuinely, I love my job so much that I would do it for free. But
Yeah.
like, I can't. I cannot. No one can sustain that. So unless they, you know, people, yeah, you just can't do it. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the things you were talking about, sort of being personally affronted slightly when few people turned up, apart from the fact that it doesn't make enough money to sustain it, but it's also like, what's wrong with me? I think, when we step out and do our own thing, I mean, it's such a massive trigger activator of all our unhealed stuff about being liked and being rejected, and all of the, what's my value and what am I offering and why is nobody turning up, and all of this stuff. can get activated and hopefully healed through this
Yeah.
process of sort of
And
working for
rejection was
ourselves.
definitely a massive thing for me in that space, I have to
Yeah.
say. I've gone some way to healing that, but I do still struggle with rejection. Like, as in, I'm very aware of that nuance and I look after it very carefully. The difference
Mm,
now being that when I feel the sense of rejection, I don't spin narratives.
mm,
I feel the feeling and I let the feeling be, as opposed to, oh, it's because no one likes me, and that
mm.
heady addiction to unhinging myself that I used to have.
Yeah, yeah. And that's
Oh,
kind
I
of
lost you.
the journey of self-development and
Oh.
self-awareness is being able to step outside when we're in that, and me when I'm kind of activated or triggered or what have you, going, I'm now going to step away and do my healing on my own and then come back when I'm a grown
Mm,
up, because in that moment I'm a traumatized child, or just really like nothing nice is going to come out my mouth now, so I'm just going to take myself away and just have a look at this. And sometimes it takes me a few days to really go like under the layers and going, what is this really about though?
mm.
Because it might have been activated in that moment, but there's normally quite a depth to what's happened in that interaction that has affected me like that. So it's kind of interesting to be
Yeah,
able to do that, I think.
I think, yeah, I mean, for me personally, I do sort of ask myself the question, yeah, the same as you, like, what part am I playing in this? Like,
Mm,
as in, I'm not blaming myself for people
yeah.
disrespecting me or not being kind to me, or but I challenge what I choose to deal with, I suppose. Like, it's hard, it's really tricky, it is really tricky being human. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I know how sensitive I am, and it does make life exhausting sometimes, the constantly having to sort of pair and cheer myself on, in a world that is loud and noisy and unpleasant
Mm,
at times.
yeah, yeah. And so let's talk about like creativity, because obviously, you are doing your one woman show, you do improv. Like, when did you start doing that or return to it? Was that something you did as a child, or is it something you kind of got involved in later on?
So I loved drama at school. I loved it all. I loved performing. But
Yeah,
also I was massively insecure. So those two things are a nightmare.
yeah,
Finding your way with those. But the uh, I, I so I didn't study drama or any theatrical thing at A level or at degree level or anything like that. And so I didn't really do my performing at all, apart from at home in the shower.
yeah.
Um, And what happened was 2 years and 3 months ago, I gave up drinking and I decided, actually, that's not true. About during COVID, I said to myself, I want to get back on a stage. So I
Right.
joined a local amateur group and I did Calendar Girls, the musical. I had the smallest part, but I did have to get naked. So that was quite a liberating experience for
Amazing.
me.
Yeah.
And then I did a pantomime with another group, which was also really fun. I got to sing in that one, so that was lovely. And then I gave up drinking and I thought, how am I going to find something to fill that void of, I love wine. So like giving up drinking was definitely a thing I needed to do, but I do still really love wine. Um, but I didn't want to drink anymore. So I was on Facebook flicking and the improv thing came up in Stroud. So I thought to myself, right, fuck it, I'm going to go and I'm going to do that. Terrifying. It's like the worst thing ever in the world. And now I'm still there, sort of 2.5 years later, and it's all to do
Yeah.
with me giving up wine,
Yeah.
and finding people that want to do performing like I do, and
Mm,
also this supportive community of like thespians who are all a little bit batty and all a little bit
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
it's that
there's
really.
yeah, and there's within the improv community, because it is such a vulnerable thing to do. I mean, any type of performances, but improv specifically, because we're not relying on a script, or we're not relying on a playwright, or we're not relying on anybody else. Like, we're relying on each other to come up with the characters, the words, the scene, the stories. It's an incredibly intense and liberating and collaborative and vulnerable way to perform and play together, isn't it?
Yeah, and also such an invitation to fuck up and not hold yourself to too high an expectation of what you think you should be.
Yeah.
So for me, like any, you know, perfectionism is rife across humanity. Like we always think we've got to be perfect to be worth something. And I think
Yeah.
improv is a classic space where you can be a bit rubbish and that's okay. Like you can make
Mm,
mistakes and that's okay. And yeah, I like that element of it. The yeah, the just the ability to not be brilliant at something. But also, you know, I'm in my work, I teach people that creativity is about doing things like not necessarily creative color, I don't mean that, but like creative living. So that's you're living in line with what makes you come alive. So like if you like doing roly polies in the park, you know, go and do that. You know, that's coloring outside of the lines. And there's
mm,
this whole, you know, there's such a stigma, like we need to know, we need to be like, especially middle-aged women, I mean seriously, fuck that shit, but like we need to be this. And
yeah.
I'm like, no, God, dance in your colors, like liberate yourself and paint with your paintbrush. You want to be a dancer and you're not even very good at dancing. That doesn't mean you can't dance. It means that you might not be on the West End, but that doesn't mean that you can't dance. Because the other thing that we get limited by all the time is if I'm not good enough at it, I can't do it. And the
Mm,
fascinating thing is, like, I've done the London Marathon twice. I don't say that as a flex. It's just interesting. So I'm not a runner, right?
mm,
But the people I'm most inspired by, are the people that do it really fast, because I'm absolutely blown away that like there's people in this world that can be that.
yeah.
But also by the people who get out of bed one morning and they've had an extraordinarily awful thing happen in their life, and they say, do you know what? For me to get through this, I'm going to commit to this and I'm going to do something. And you know, I'm humbled by people doing things because they can, not because they're brilliant at it. And I wish
Mm,
the world could be so much more supportive of that. And that
mm,
doesn't mean everything deserves a spot on the stage. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying, oh, everyone should be on the team. I'm saying there are people that should be on teams, like the winning team. If you want to be on the England football team, right, be brilliant at football. But if football makes you feel brilliant, don't stop because you're never going to make it to the top. Like,
mm,
do it because it makes you feel like you're at the top. Like, that's my
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Totally. So there's a couple
Yeah.
of things there. Like when I started doing improv about 25 years ago, I've been doing it on and off since then. And when I did an improv class, I did like a weekend with a show at the end of it. And that was the first time I'd been told it was okay not to be good at something. Like and I was in my early 30s, and they were like, right, let's just get one thing out of the way. You've never done this before. We don't expect you to be good. We don't expect you to be funny. We don't expect you to get it right. We don't expect you to know what you do. Um, and so they had this theme, which is a bit American, this chant: we suck and we love to fail. We suck and we love to fail. And so it was all about celebrating failure. And I was like, how am I in my early 30s? And this is the only time, first time in my life, I've been told, you don't have to be good at this, Claire. You've never done it before. It was such
Mm.
a revelation to me. And I suddenly went,
Yeah, it's like
oh
mind blowing.
God, yeah, we're allowed to be shit at things we've never
Yeah.
tried before.
And we're
Imagine.
also allowed, yeah, we're also allowed to be shit. It's that whole thing about like what are we measuring ourselves against? Like
Yeah.
who designed
Who's
the measure? Who
deciding?
designed the measure? Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
you know, we're all a bit shit and we're all a bit fabulous and we're all a bit flawed and we're all a bit brilliant. And my frustration is always like humanity across the board, and of course I'm the same, is that we always tune into the things we could be better at, or the things we could get better.
Yeah,
My argument is, what is that? What are we trying to achieve? And who are we doing it for? Like the
yeah,
biggest it's and I appreciate it's about connecting to a broader community, acceptance. You know, if you're a certain way, you fit in different places. But like, my God, we have to somehow find a way for humanity to accept self. Like, I am fabulous, but I'm also shit. Like, and that's okay. That's the whole. Like, so is every other person on the planet. Like,
yeah,
yeah. I just don't know why that message doesn't reach enough people. It doesn't reach enough people. That.
yeah. And I'm a great one. Like eventually I've got to the stage where I can be proud and celebrate like what I'm good at or what I've done well. And I also go, and I'm also a deeply flawed human being, even though I've been on this path for absolutely years. Do you know what I mean? It's like, because that's why
Yeah.
we're here. You know, it's about embracing all of that and being okay with it.
And isn't that what makes us more fabulous, is accepting that we're not perfect, but also questioning what perfection means. Like that's what's so fascinating about it all. Like, how much of it is real and how much is invented by some arsehole who wants us to spend money on being other
Yeah,
things.
totally. I mean, there is no perfection in humanity, because that's the point of being human. You know, if we want
Yeah.
to be a perfectly divine soul, then we're just a divine soul. There's no human involved. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
funny.
fascinating. It is fascinating, but it's difficult. Like, the world is full of messages, and not many of them are "you're good enough as you are." And I think what improv does, and what my show has done for me, is just to recognize that I'm going to make mistakes, and look, I'm still alive.
Yeah,
Because my nervous system would try and convince me otherwise.
yeah. I had a friend, well, I've still got this friend, my one of my oldest best friends, and she was doing a lot of singing at one point. You know, she'd take her kind of amps, and now, you know, it's backing tracks and it's on the tablet, the lyrics and all of this sort of modern stuff. But she was like, "Oh, I'm really worried I'm going to forget my words." And I said to her, "Well, you will." And she went, "Well, that's not very reassuring." And I'm like, "But you've got a fear about forgetting the words, but it's a live performance. You will forget the words sometimes. You will, the mic will drop out, you know, things will happen. You know, in this interview, it keeps telling me my internet's unstable." And I'm like, "Well, you know, I can either give up or I can keep having this conversation."
No,
And so
you keep going
I
a bit
thought it was
stiff.
like, let's just assume things will go wrong and things are not going to go to plan, because then it doesn't throw us off. Quite like, not that we're intending for that or we want that to happen. We're not setting it as a goal necessarily, but it's also
No.
going, you know, these things are going to happen. And I've had some huge calamities happen in my life, that have totally derailed me, but I've got back on. Well, I've actually got on a different path quite often at the end of it. And it's not to say that was easy. It was really, really tough at the time. But this is what life is. You know, we're not shiny Instagram people. I don't have 5 colors of foundation on my face. And I had this thing, you know, when I started showing up again on video, because I hadn't done any for a few years, and I was like, oh my God, I can see I've aged a lot in the last few years since I've been on video. But I'm like, well, I'm not pretending to be 22 years old. You know, this is who I
Mm.
am. And if you meet me, you know, same with you. If I meet you in person, you'll look like you do today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll
It's
know
not
who I
like
am.
I'm not, yeah, I like it or not. Yeah, so being real is a thing. And I know that's consistent. You know, I follow you on socials, and that's your consistent message. And it's a beautiful thing to hear, because I think, yeah, people need to hear that more and more. And again, I think that's another backlash that's happening kind of around socials, is sort of people going, oh, now we've got more access to, you know, to live video or authenticity. So there's one stream that's going way off into the sort of AI fakery, let's just make everything try perfect, which actually makes it a bit weird. Or we just go, do you know, I'm not going to edit anything that I do on here. I'm just going to speak like I would do normally, and then share it in the world. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But you know, it's
Yeah,
um,
it's an acceptance of all that. It is really tricky, the messages that get to. I always say, for me, my one of my drivers is trying to help the young people who are sort of
yeah,
growing up in my shadow, if not in my shadow really, but as in my wake. And trying to help them not have to live with the lack of self-esteem based on the things they should be. And it is really tough. Social media does make life really tough, and
yeah,
it makes me sad to see people choosing some things help them feel better about themselves, and not because I'm judging them for that, but because I feel sad that they think have to change to be worthy.
mm,
um and it's the culture that pisses me off, not the choices, if that makes sense. Like, and
yeah,
I do absolutely think that all, advertisers, social media platforms, they need to have more a is agency the right word? I don't know. They need to be more socially responsible for the impact of the stuff that gets out there.
yeah,
Um, and the media too, really. I mean, honestly, you read a newspaper, it's absolutely full of hate and judgment, and and I'm like, just fuck off. Like, it really grinds my gears.
yeah. No, I get that feeling, Lizzie. Yeah, no, yeah, I
Because
know.
it's so annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying that, we're trying to sell this perception that if you have this or be this or have that, you'll be loved and lovable and more lovable, when actually, we're lovable as we are. And it's
Yeah,
just finding the spaces that open their arms and are happy to see us.
Yeah, and we don't,
which
you know,
isn't always easy.
we'll never be loved by everybody, and we don't have to be. And so it's like, yeah, like you said earlier, attracting the people or gathering people around us that really truly love us for who we are and can support us through all sorts of things. You know, I've had various mental health challenges and things going on in my life, and you know, the people that have stuck with me are the people that are still with me. They've seen me through everything, and they know who I am at such an intimate level, and it's sort of
Yeah.
like great. And people who fell away, again, there's no judgment of that. Their lives were different, or they were busy, or they were, you know, they couldn't deal with it, or what have you. And it's sort of, it's really refreshing to be able to really have those people with whom I can share deeply, because
Mm.
it's just so nourishing to be heard and witnessed in, like I say, in all the, in the whole
Yeah, in all the
spectrum.
ways. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
no,
it's lovely as well
definitely.
to have people that will challenge you. Like, you know, we're so afraid of upsetting people. Like, you don't often get people who challenge your way of thinking. But actually, if you've got friends around you who challenge you in a way that is about empowering you, actually, like that's a really lovely thing. But I appreciate all this stuff is nuanced, yes, because
Yeah, yeah,
you know, people, so it's tuning into the people that bring the right stuff to you.
yeah,
Uh very much so that.
yeah,
Mm.
definitely. So let's talk about your show briefly then. And so how did that come about?
Oh, so last when did I did that show? My first time I did that was March last year, and what happened was the year before that I've had two significant mental health breakdowns in my life. One
Yeah,
was in like 2018, which I didn't drown because of medication and wine. And I'm not saying that right, wrong path, whatever. That's what I did. That's what
yeah.
took me away from the edge and
We're
back
not
up into my.
recommending that, everybody. We're just
No,
saying.
we're just saying, yeah, like that's just what I did. That's my personal story. And then I had another dance with that, maybe, well, it must have been, say, 2 years ago, because I can't remember. And I could feel the rise of it coming. I could feel it coming. And I thought, oh my God, we're heading down this space again where I'm going to be frightened to leave home,
Yeah,
frightened to talk to people. I can't do this again. And I said to myself, right, this time, Lizzie, you're going to heal. And so I didn't, again, not recommending this to anybody. This isn't about right ways, wrong ways. It's about
yeah,
the way that was right for me.
yeah.
I didn't take mental health drugs, although I'm a great advocate for them if you need them. And I didn't drink wine. And I decided that one of the things that's really missing from my life is performance. And now's the time to do it. So
Mm,
having that, it wasn't like the first breakdown at all, but suddenly I had more faith in my feet because I was using my work to help me feel better.
yeah,
And suddenly I thought, actually, there's a story that needs telling. And
right.
so that's what happened. So this show, and it's called Fuck It's and Rainbows with a PH. And it is the story of recovery and hope and hilarity and chaos and truth and comedy and deep sadness and
Mm,
everything that lies in between. And I really, you know, it's doing really well, as in, I don't, again, not in a, I'm going to win a BAFTA. That's not what I mean. It's doing really well in that I'm going to some very small theatres, art centres,
mm,
and it's being received really beautifully by people that I've never met. And so for me, the impact of my work, I know the impact of my work with the people around here who know me because I live it and I'm in it.
yeah.
But when I meet strangers and my story touches them, there's a real there's a real element of good grief. This is inspiring. I must try and keep it going. So that's where I'm at. Um, and so, yeah, now I'm on tour, which is hilarious because I've gone from, say what I said, I've gone from self-loathing to spotlight. But I just like to, that's 20 years it's taken me to go from one to the other. It's
Yeah.
definitely not been a one day I decided to. And also with the love of a family unit that have got my back, and
Mm,
friends who have watched it and told me it's good, Lizzie, you can do this. I loved it, and that really matters because
yeah.
it really matters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
so
there it
so
is,
this
and it's
is kind of
out.
really interesting, because it's almost like that's the last time you would imagine you'd get a kind of urge to get on stage, is where you've got this, your body or your mental health or whatever it is going, time to withdraw and shrink, and it's like, no, I'm not doing it again, almost like rebelling by doing
Mm,
almost the polar opposite.
yeah,
So
it's
did
interesting.
you have help in the writing and the directing and that kind of stuff with it?
So no, not really. So it's unscripted, but it has a pathway. I don't have a
Mm,
script because that triggers the perfectionist in me that says I'll
yeah,
forget my words, and if I forget my words, suddenly I'll panic.
yeah,
So I know how it goes, but
yeah.
there is no set words. Yeah. My beautiful friend Helen has watched it and gave me any sort of constructive criticism and feedback to help me I don't know, make it a bit shinier, but like in such a beautiful way. And no, it's all been my own. It's a why I love it is it's my creative love letter to everything that I teach, which is that compassion and connection and courage is what sets us free, and
Mm,
truth is the balm that will help us do that. But what's interesting is I think for me on the stage, I'm not an ordered person. I'm terrible at anything remotely, boxed in. But what I love about the stage is that I have freedom to be and say anything I like. Now,
mm,
that doesn't mean I come out and I'm all political and all that sort of stuff. It means that suddenly the very essence of what I believe in, I think that's made a massive difference to, like, I
mm,
genuinely know that it's changed me from the inside out, that
mm.
you know doing that. I'm not advocating for every, I'm not saying it's for everyone, but like for me, this person who has felt like I've silenced myself for so long for many reasons,
Yeah,
my stage has given me a platform to actually say how it is, and that has, my words have been met with resonance and gratitude, which is, that means that there's a story that needs to be told and people need to hear it. And it's not,
yeah,
I'm not some extraordinary being. I'm just a woman who, a very ordinary woman who lives a very lovely life. Um, yeah, trying to suck the very magic out of living, um, but knowing how nuanced and complicated that is, because,
mm,
life is not a paved path,
mm.
more a mountain with the odd goat.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting one, the journey of life for sure.
Yeah.
And certainly when I'm working with people and coaching people, I've got away from, because when I trained as a coach, it was very, like I say, masculine model. We set a goal and we work towards it, and there's this framework and it's very structured. And I think everything's changed so much that there's more room for, yeah, the nuances and the intuition and the individuality. And it's always about, for me, working with people, it's always about it. There is no prescription. It's
Mm.
following, like you said, following the aliveness, following what attracts us, and then seeing how it feels when we're doing it. So going back to what you said about improv, who's deciding, with or any kind of creativity at all, who's deciding whether we're good or not? Like if we're doing it for the
Mm.
joy of doing it, we're just doing it because we're enjoying something about the experience of it, not because of how it looks from outside, or
Mm.
because how it's, I mean, I love a round of applause, don't get me wrong, but it's more about like how am I feeling in this moment? But with your show, or if we're doing something on stage, or we have even having a conversation with somebody where you have that kind of two-way exchange, you can feel more connected, and also you're you're being witnessed in your vulnerability and in your story,
Mm.
with your show especially. So you're getting, it feels like it's kind of healing and liberating you just to be able to do it, kind of say and do what you want to do. But also the reception that you're getting from other people is is part of the journey, and knowing that you're having this sort of ripple effect on the audience must be amazing. But you're
Yeah,
not
and I
relying
think,
on it, do you know what I mean? It's really interesting.
yeah, and it is amazing. Like it is amazing. And it is really healing. The whole, you're right, you're really right. Like the whole, here's my story, let it be, and let it
Mm,
be in the world is really healing. And
yeah.
um yeah, the ripple effect is extraordinary. And I get messages months afterwards from people, oh, I saw this, I thought of you. There's a naked mole rat that features in my show, and people send me factoids about naked mole rats, and people are and really like hurty heart things where people say, I wish my son had seen this show, and got, like, just it, I don't even know how to explain what my show does or is really, because it
Mm,
is just how I see and live in the world. But I think it's because it's unfiltered truth.
Mm,
And people really resonate with that, because a lot of it is very heartfelt and true and sad, but also, you know, funny and ridiculous,
yeah.
and that too, yeah. And we know we keep our cards close to our chest, and that's also fine. Like when I talk about vulnerability, I say to people, there's a great courage in owning our vulnerability, but also not everybody needs to have privy to that.
Mm,
It's we don't have to walk around being so vulnerable that we're easy to hurt. But
mm,
what's interesting about doing my vulnerable thing on the stage, if you like, is that people say, "How do you do that on stage?" I'm really protected because I'm on a stage and everyone else is somewhere else. So
mm,
people don't, they don't shout out or challenge, or they just listen, absorb, and feel the feelings, which is what
mm,
it's all about. So yeah,
mm.
it's interesting, really safe, weirdly. I
Yeah.
don't I wouldn't say that if you said to me, how do you feel on the side of the stage before you go on? I'd say, well, I want to run. Um,
I know. I've read all your posts and seen your videos for like the hour before you do it. But that's I think everybody's like that with a performance though. We're like, why did I think this was a good idea? And halfway through we're in flow and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And at the end, we're like, woo, that was the best thing ever. When can I do it again? And this is
I
just
know,
the
so true,
cycle of
yeah.
being
Well,
a
I don't know
performer,
about
I
you.
think.
Do you still pick up the mistakes you make, or are you much? So I definitely still pick up the mistakes I make and have to work really hard to not overfeel them for myself. Like, if I make a mistake, I
Mm,
don't beat myself up about it, but I still definitely come off the stage. And rather than think about the 50 people that have just said, my God, that's amazing, I think about the one who said wasn't for me.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't do a lot of public performance at the moment. So that's certainly something that I'm gonna do more of. But I did have last weekend I had my first rehearsal with an improv group who do a particular type of show. And I they put a message in the WhatsApp group saying, is anybody interested in doing this sort of thing? And I thought that sounds interesting. And he was trying to explain to me what it was, and I said, well, why don't I just come to a rehearsal and I can see if I like the setup and you can see if you like me and we can see if we gel together. And like he did a quick like explanation, and then we did a run through of this kind of 30-minute show which had a specific structure which was quite convoluted. And I did make huge mistakes because I actually didn't know what some of the stuff was because he'd forgotten to tell me. So it was
yeah,
great for me as well, going, oh, I'm not supposed to be in this scene, because I did that bit, but he forgot to tell me that. So I was just like, right, okay, this is all fine. So I kind of go in now going, yeah, if I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm watching some of these YouTubes back just to see, I've got these repetitive speech patterns that are a bit annoying, so I want to try and do them less. But at the same time, I'm
mm,
like, but there's videos out there that exist and people are watching them, and they wouldn't have existed if I'd just been sitting there worrying about all of this. So I think when I get more on stage, but I think improv for me is different as well, because there is I really like to be brilliant doing improv, but it's improv. So I think I would be more of a
yeah,
perfectionist with a script. And but
mm,
I moved away from using scripts quite a long time ago. Like when I first learnt improv, I was at an adult evening drama class, and we did all sorts of types of theatre and playwrights and stuff, styles of theatre, and we did a bit of improv. And there was a whole group of us that just went, I never want a script, because then I'm in my head trying to remember it, and I can't act so well. And then it's somebody else's lines and someone
yeah,
else's characters. Whereas when I'm doing improv, it's almost like I'm not even there some of the time. I just feel like I'm a channel for whatever's coming through. So even if it's been good or terrible, I'm like, I wasn't really in charge of that, to be honest. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how we use different creative formats to liberate ourselves, basically, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming towards the end of this lovely conversation. So, is there anything you want to share that you feel you haven't shared for the listeners and the viewers?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. There's probably so much, but also we've covered such a lot, so
We
that's
have
fun.
covered a lot.
Um, yeah, no, not really. I really just my dream is to help the people in the world realize that we're of value, even if we don't, even if we don't tick the valuable box on
Mm,
forms. And you know, everyone sort of says that once you get somewhere, you'll be something. And I'm the other way round. I believe I am something and I am getting somewhere, but getting somewhere isn't the heady heights of a stage. It's having total and utter faith in myself. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I'm not rocked or that I'm not complex or that I don't find things really confusing. But I have such faith in myself that I will find my way. And
Mm,
that is it. And, you know, I work with people with all sorts of challenged, and I think that the gift that we find time and time again is just that you will find your way, but you have to trust that you will. And that doesn't mean it's easy, it doesn't mean that it is without its obstacles, but it's that every day just waking up and thinking, how can I make today doable? And I,
mm,
you know, I just bloody love when I say to myself, oh, it's impossible, and then it's that reminder of like everything is impossible until it's not anymore.
mm,
And like, you know, if you'd asked me 3 years ago if I would have a one-woman show, I'd be, don't be ridiculous, that's impossible. And here I am doing it. Is it going to win a
mm,
BAFTA? Probably not. But the point is that, you know, I don't sound wanky in any way, but like if we don't give ourselves a chance, we can never try, we can never. And I know there are so many reasons that hold us back, but what if someone gave you a pen and they said it's time for you to write a story? What would you say? And what would you write?
mm,
Erasing, not erasing your history, but recognizing that's not the story you want to be in anymore.
mm.
Um, and I could go on and on and on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first time I
So
ever ran corporate training, I didn't stop speaking for 3 hours, and I was so glad that the people I was working for loved me because I like, well, not loved me, but do you know what I mean? They were
yeah.
invested, because they in the end went, bloody hell, Lizzie, like honestly, you've just spoken for 3 hours straight, and like we're all quite tired now. I've got better. I've got better. My timing's got a little
Yeah, it's like
better.
we've got a lot to say, everybody. We've got a lot to say.
So true. I do have a lot to say, but I hear a lot too. I hear a lot of stories. I hear a lot of trickery. There's so many people struggling with so much, and you know, I just want them to know that A, they can ask for help. B, to keep believing that, you know, it won't always be that way.
Yeah.
And that on the other side of impossible, there is I did, and that's what I try and help people hold on to, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, lovely. And so we'll put all the links to your show and your website and your socials and everything under the in the description for the podcast and the YouTube. But where can people find you if they want to hop on,
So
follow
I'm on
you,
all
and
the
buy tickets for your show?
I'm on all the usual channels. I'm absolutely shit at admin, so the show thing's quite an entertaining one. So you can find me on Instagram as Fuckets and Rainbows with a PH, or Beanology One, which is my business side,
Yeah.
and then on Facebook you can find me as Lizzie Bean or Beanology. I also do have two podcasts as well. One is called Being Human, and one is called Human Soup. Both of them are about the extraordinary experience of what it is to be like to be human. All of them with the same invitation from my heart, really.
Fantastic. So we'll pop all those links underneath for anybody that's interested in following Lizzie or going to see this wonderful show that's touring
Oh God, yeah,
around.
the show. Theoretically, the ticket links are on my socials. That's where they are, but
That's
I'm
fine.
rubbish
I'm
at
sure
that.
people can find them. That's all brilliant if they look them up.
Just
So yeah,
rubbish at it. Yeah.
that's all good.
Cool.
We can't be good at everything, Lizzie.
No, thank God. And thank God. I mean, I just did say to someone else, what I really love is a little elf, actually a goblin, with a really long feather pen that just ran around with me and just like did all the admin
Yeah.
bits.
Yeah.
But I don't think they exist.
You need an elf PA. That's what it
I need
is.
an elf. Yeah. If there's anyone out there who is
If
looking
anybody
for that,
knows one, if anybody knows an elf looking for some PA
but they do
work.
have to have very long feather pen. So
Yeah.
that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. That's vital. Oh, anyway,
So
Lizzie,
fun.
that's been absolutely glorious. Thanks for your time, and
Oh, and yours.
thanks
Thank
everybody for
you.
watching. And I'll see you for another conversation very soon. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.